So if you saw my last video about Covfefe, okay, my short video to the music, I know people might be confused. Don't be. But let me tell you, this is so odd. This is so not even odd. I sit back and I go, where are we going, God? What's going on? Because this goes way beyond coincidence for me. I mean, it already did a long time ago, but this really, because I've said before that my uncle, not my uncle, well, my uncle, but my grandfather, I knew he had connections to government contracts back in the 50s, okay? I didn't know how much he did do. Then I found out, and I thought, why are they erasing his name? Well, it all comes down, and it's not this company's fault, okay? It's not. I don't blame them. I don't. Because he was part of this. This was his business, my grandfather's, Perfection Mica. He started out in mining and then pivoted and added the Magnetic Shield Corp, okay? And they were one and the same. Now it's just called this. But you go on their site, you can't find my grandfather's name, which I sort of understand. I do. Because the fallout came when my grandfather died. He died when he was young. He died like at 50 or something, around 50, in 1963. This was the height of the whole space. He was, back then, it was the business that signed for it, but it was him. He was the one that went to the trade shows. My mother went with him to many of the electronic trade shows. My mother was very close to her father. So he patented the Conetic and Netic patent, which is for this it's called a Mu room that NASA uses, okay? Think of it, this is the simplest way to think of it. It's like a Faraday cage. That's what it is, okay? It keeps all the bad elements that can, hurt things in space or burn it up. It keeps it all out. So he created that by pivoting, and then that's why they added the magnetic shield onto that. Now it's just called this. So see, when my grandfather died, okay, my grandmother became the CEO. And, back then, they weren't going to respect a woman, and she had a baby, because she had a baby late in life. It was their third child. Plus, she was going through breast cancer at the time. So she stayed on as CEO for a little while, but then she sold it. But she sent my uncle out to create a whole other business. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about that, because it's just not. But it's a competition to them. So I understand why they don't mention his name, but neither can the other company. Not my grandfather. I mean, the name carried on, but not, like, my grandfather deserves the credit there, okay? Because he was responsible for this. I mean, he had the mica mine in South Dakota and in North Carolina. So I just hate seeing him totally erased from the history, all because of this fallout. But that said, and then they erased this picture from my phone. Can you believe that? I'm like, because this world is just so messed up. But I mean, I don't know who, but it's tech. So, they're always watching. I totally did a video on this morning, earlier today, not this morning, but earlier today. And then I went to find it for this video. I'm like, where did it go? I didn't erase it. It's gone. Have you ever had that happen? You had pictures and they're gone. I've had it happen before. So I went and got it again. But I understand. See, because if they were to mention my grandfather, then it gives business to the other company. So I get it. I'm not trying to go after them. I'm not trying to go after anybody. But I'm not obligated to any of your stuff, any side here. Okay. I just know when I found out how much my grandfather did for NASA, that then is being carried on either here, but they don't even mention his name, and yet the other place can't mention his first name either. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm gonna say it then, because I'm not held to any agreements. Because what's really interesting to me about all this is then it ties all into Covfefe. How can that be? Because really what he did was he came up with what's called a Mu room. That's what this did, which is the Faraday cage. This would be a modern example of this. I'm sure they have so many examples, but back in the day, in the 50s, when my grandfather would go to the trade shows and my mother would go with him, it was just this. Okay, that's all it was then. It was just a way that you didn't have to have like mounds and mounds of metal, and so it was all this magnetic stuff. Okay, and it's like a Faraday cage. So he they call it a moo room. He's responsible for that, and yet he's been erased from the history all because, he died. And I get it. I'm just so anyway. So that's why I ended up. I don't know. God kept leading me down this path. So because I don't obsessively think about Covfefe, and I was shocked then when I started looking into this today and realizing what he created. And then further, because they still use this. I mean, otherwise, the rovers on Mars or whatever they do in space, it would all burn up. You need this. So and he only had a high school education, but he was he was your true entrepreneur. So anyway, but then when I stumbled upon this whole Covfefe thing, which is tied to it's about this alloy. Well, it's all part of it. And so here's where the Prince of Darkness thing comes for me into everything, as I've said. It says in the Bible, the Prince of the Power of the Air is the Prince of Darkness. So that seems easy to see what that is. That's your energy, frequency, vibration. It's why God said to test the spirits. I sort of look at the air as, that's the spirit you want to stay away from is there, but God's the breath. So I just sort of try to distinguish them. So then I had said a couple of days ago, I'm like, everybody's taken, everybody, NASA, the science, you've all gotten all your ideas from the Prince of the Power of the Air, because some of it they did. Yet what my grandfather created, the Faraday cage, was what keeps the Prince of the Power of the Air out, because it keeps all that out. It has to. Not that it's doing it because it wants to go and explore into space. I'm not saying it was created to do that, but that's what it does. And yet, in order for it to do that, it needs vanadium, cobalt, and the nickel, which breaks down like into iron. It's this whole process that, how the Bible talks about God will know the metal is or that the silver is done when he can see his face in it. Well, he's talking about us, but that also applies to this. See how it says NASA Moo Room metal shielding? Now, the people that have the patent for the Moo Room, that's the picture I showed first, the Magnetic Shield Corporation, that my uncle was partial owner, okay? So this is the reason he just gets I'm sure there was litigation to it, but my grandfather was responsible for the Moo Room with that company I showed, because he owned it. However, since then, so NASA still uses all this, obviously, but it's literally what keeps all the elements out, the frequency. And I was asking, Gemini about this, and I was blown away. I should just do another video, and I'll play the recording, because it's too crazy. It's so crazy, because it says here, when you look at the room, okay, like the Faraday cage, as a chemical trinity, the cobalt is the warrior that stands on the outside to block the most violent energy. The vanadium is the glue, so that the vanadium is the strong man that gives the metal the strength to hold its form so it won't fall apart. And the nickel, which that's where the iron comes in, is the peacemaker on the inside that creates the final absolute silence, because it keeps all the noise and static of the, so I'll do another video to let you hear exactly how Gemini, because I was blown away. I'm like, no, you're making this up. And it gave me the PDF to go to find it, which is what I showed you, the HyperCo 50. All of this because of my grandfather, who was like a titan back, before he died. It was because it was right at the time. He died in 1963. He had obtained these huge patents to help accelerate NASA into the space wars, that they were, in the space race with everyone else. Go figure.